DJ, before we get started today, you and I both have big weekend plans when it comes to college football. I'm going to the Florida game that starts 1 p.m. their time, and you're doing the Badgers Michigan game, which starts at 11. So I've got to ask you, we're in our early 30s, mid 30s. How in the hell are we going to pregame drink this? Like that's almost too early to be starting if we're going to go all day. What's your game plan to get a nice buzz before that kickoff?
So I'm going down to the Barstool is actually coming to Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm going down there. I'm going to drink at about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning,
Oh,
and then I'm going to go to that thing. I'm going to drink some more, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to watch the game after that. I'm going to drink again, and then I'm going to come home. I'm going to bet on some NFL games. I'm going to drink, and then Saturday night I'm going to go out and keep drinking.
sounds like we should start now.
Yeah.
Let's get loaded because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Oh, pathetic. Where we never finish first because we finish last.
That beer tastes good, and welcome back.
It's spilled everywhere.
After a little bit of a mishap by us, weather got the best of us. We weren't able to do our second preview podcast last week, so I feel like it's been forever since we podcast. So welcome back. New listeners, thank you for joining us for your first time. Listeners that have been there through thick and thin, we welcome you back because we are here. It's week 3 in the NFL already, and we're doing our fantasy football preview. We're talking daily fantasy sports stacks, bargains, must-use guys, must-avoid guys, just general advice for those DFS rosters. And then we also have a handful of fantasy football start-sit listener questions. So if you ever want to get your question answered, hit us up on Twitter. We usually send out a tweet prior to recording the episode, so make sure you take advantage of that. DJ, you're back to podcasting outside. If you're watching on YouTube, you just got a hell of a glimpse of basically DJ's crotch as he is just spraying off bug spray. Man, what did you just literally, like, I can hardly see you. You're just soaked in bug spray.
I just bug sprayed the shit out of it. I think there might be bug spray in my beer. I'm going to drink it so the mosquito don't go in my mouth.
That's a heady play. I can respect that. Looks like you're drinking a new beer. And DJ, with Daily Fantasy Sports, are you doing bargains again this week? Is that your MO?
Bargains. You know what? And my bargains have been money. I don't know what it is. I've been good at like college betting, setting lineups, putting in DFS, and the worst NFL bettor in the history of football. I've literally won 2 games. We'll talk about that, whatever. But my lineups are hitting right now. I've put in the $3 million it's like the $3 million. I think they give out $3 million. First place gets $1 million. I've placed in those twice in a row now and made money in them each the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
Over 500,000 people.
Well, there you go. If DJ's got to be hot in one thing, it's DFS lineups, and that's why you're here today. So DJ, lead it off. Bargain quarterback.
All right. Well, I didn't prep for too much time, but you know what? Never stopped me before. I'm going with Matthew Stafford, going $6,900 at Philadelphia Eagles. They have given up a ton of yards to a Case Keenum and McLovin guy that the Redskins have at wide receiver, who people are starting to pick up.
Scary Terry.
I know. I don't believe in him just because I don't trust a bad offense. It doesn't stay consistent. New guys can come in and kind of bust up the league for a couple of weeks until people start figuring it out. And then obviously they gave up a bunch of yards to the Falcons. So Stafford, I mean, he looks like he's spinning it a little bit better. I did make the statement this would be maybe one of his last years at the Detroit Lion, but he's spinning it a little bit better. Went up against the Chargers defense last week and ended up winning that game. That's a very good secondary in the Chargers. We can't forget about that.
Right.
But I like Philadelphia. I think was 25th against the pass so far this year, and they're just getting blitzed right now. They're just getting torn up, and when you're getting torn up by Case Keenum, who I'm pretty sure is going to be benched within the next couple of weeks for Dwayne Haskins, like, you're not going to be good against Matt Stafford with Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones and guys like that.
That's what I was going to say. How about the emergence last week of Kenny Galladay? I, for one, left him on my bench. I'm in a league with a very deep roster. I've got like 20 guys, so I couldn't fit him in there, and I was a little nervous. But, man, he went for like 7 catches, 100-plus yards. He had a really nice, like, athletic-looking touchdown. That emergence, if you can get him going, they threw the ball out to carry on. He was able to house one on a reception touchdown from Stafford. If they can get Marvin Jones going, they've already gotten Hockenson going a little bit. That seems like a really interesting game. The only hesitation is it's like Matthew Stafford, yeah, the last couple of years, he was like always your DFS bargain quarterback. You could almost bank on 20 points. Well, hey, like the last half of last year, it just put this like weird feeling that like, man, I just don't know if I trust him because I feel like in DFS, you need to get your quarterback to get 20 fantasy points. And he just hasn't done that consistently enough. So I think the emergence of Kenny Galladay helps. That'd be my only downfall as to where I see that maybe there's something wrong with that as your bargain quarterback.
That's why we call it a bargain, and that's why we go week to week. Like, I'm not going to have him as a quarterback. I've got him on my bench in some leagues. He may be one of the worst quarterbacks to have on your team this year because he's the only quarterback with 3 top 10 defenses in his division that he has to play twice this year each.
Yeah, that sucks as well. Let's go on to some expensive options at quarterback. So I think these two are the most expensive on FanDuel anyways. If you were to go expensive at quarterback this week, who would you be more likely to use? And these guys play each other. You've got Pat Mahomes versus Baltimore. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to take a different route here. These are expensive guys, but there's a little bit of a lag between them. Would you go with the most expensive guy, Pat Mahomes, 9,200 versus the Ravens, or would you use Dak, who is $800 cheaper versus the Dolphins?
Baltimore's obviously got a better defense than
Miami.
What Miami has. Does Miami field the team still?
There's a chance that our listeners might get called to play in the Dolphins secondary this week.
You know what I was thinking about, and maybe the Dolphins should do this year, but this morning I woke up and I was like, I wonder if the Packers replacement team is going to be good in 2021. But the Miami Dolphins are basically playing a replacement team right now. I was like, I'm going to start working out to try out for the Packers replacement team in 2021. But I think if I would have started 2 years ago, I could be playing for the Dolphins right now.
From dad bod to Dolphins defensive back.
I mean, I could play Dolphins defensive back with the dad bod right now, I think.
You would be the second best defender on the secondary.
I might play linebacker.
You can replace Minka.
In this situation, with the defensive lines, Dak's been lighting it up too. Like, let's not forget, he's been killing it, and now he gets another juicy matchup against Miami. I'm saving myself $800 in cap space for a guy who probably actually runs it more than Mahomes, does more read option, and has been just slinging it this year so far against a defense that doesn't even want to be playing football anymore.
Correct.
Like, who do you guys even have? Xavier Howard's out there putting out tweets like of Will Smith standing alone in the house. Like, he might not even move. He might stand there as guys run by him.
Do you know how nervous that tweet makes Dolphins fans? Like, some guys were like laughing about it and saying like, "Oh, that's so funny." I, for one, okay, he just signed a contract extension this offseason, so I shouldn't feel nervous. But the Dolphins just traded a guy who literally played 17 games with the team. So Kevin Garnett said at Vince, anything is possible.
It's crazy because there's a huge difference between tanking and rebuilding, and then tanking and what's the word I had the word in my head there, like deteriorating. There it was. Because you can't rebuild without anybody.
Oh, right.
Trevor Lawrence or Tua, I know Trevor Lawrence is 2 years from now, or Tua can't play quarterback with nobody around them.
Right. Oh, we could have a whole podcast on that. So I'm going to save it in case we do a special edition sometime about the Dolphins tank, which we should, by the way.
The bad hour.
Let me give you another hypothetical here. Let's say you're going mid-range with a quarterback this week. Lamar Jackson, who's just been on fire, is 8,500 on FanDuel at the Chiefs, or Deshaun Watson, who's 8,200 at the Chargers. Who do you got?
And here's what I've told you guys about Deshaun Watson over and over again about how bad his offensive line is. And that's what worries me the most, right? I think he broke a record he's been sacked 4 times in each of the last 8 games that he's played in.
Yep, that's amazing.
That is horrible. I saw Aaron Rodgers as one of the worst offensive lines, I thought, 2013, where he was just getting murdered all the time. This is bad. Like, they just don't get better. They added Tunzel, and they're still trash. Like, He's constantly getting hit. For that reason alone, the Chargers are good against the pass, crappy against the run. I'll talk about that later in a second here in my bargain picks. So I'm going to go Lamar Jackson here because they have the pass rushers and the secondary, and I don't know how the Texans are going to block the Chargers. Like, that game the other night, what was the Monday night game? The Browns and the Jets?
Yes.
The Jets weren't even blocking the Browns defenders for like a half. Like, they weren't even blocking them. They were running through. That's what's going to happen here.
Myles Garrett had like half of a season worth of production. Trevor Siemian lost a leg. It was fucking chaotic.
I bet the over in that game, and is that as soon as that started, I immediately regretted it because I've never seen guys like you bring a blitz and you usually like block like 4 or 5 guys. They brought a blitz and all 7 guys would come free. It was like I've never seen anything. I was so discouraged by everything I saw in that game.
Right.
I felt bad for like. How would Darnold even play behind that? How do you not block anybody?
Here's the thing. Darnold's got mono, so that means his immune system is weak. That means his spine is susceptible to splitting. Had he played in that game, Sam Darnold wouldn't be alive right now. Sam Darnold would be 6 feet in a hole.
He'd be dead.
He would literally be dead. I was going to go Watson. I think you might have talked me into it. If I'm using a mid-ranged quarterback, me and you both think Lamar Jackson is going to cool down at some point. He's not going to keep having these 25, 30-point fantasy games. I think we're on the same page there. But, man, it might be another week or so before it happens because, yeah, like you said, he can exploit this matchup. And against the Chiefs, we haven't seen a defense literally in a year and a half be able to, not a year and a half, but over a year, be able to like really slow them down. Because of that, I think the Ravens are going to have to get into a bit of a shootout. The Chiefs are going to score against anyone. That includes this Ravens defense. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have to toss it and run it to even be in this game. You sold me on it. I'm changing my mind to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, if I were most people, I'd keep Lamar Jackson for one more week, and I would sell as high as I can because once he starts facing defenses, he's not a good quarterback. Like, he was missing guys wide open last week that were running across the middle. Again, he played against the Dolphins in week 1, Cardinals in week 2. Now he gets to play in a high-scoring affair against Mahomes, who already doesn't have a good defense, and the Chiefs in general. So, Lamar, I'm out on Lamar. People are like thinking that he's like this franchise guy and that they've proved everything through 2 weeks. If he does it for 8 weeks, maybe I'll back off. But I think after once he faces one good defense, the whole narrative is going to change. And I'm almost guaranteeing that.
I'm with you. I'm going to stick to my guns a little bit on that one before I buy into that as well. Before we jump to running backs, I'm going to ask you what you think about my stack of the week because it's a bargain stack of the week. So it fits your MO here when it comes to DFS. But it's a stack of the Bills. It's Josh Allen and John Brown, my bargain stack of the week. They play the Bengals. The Bengals defense right now is allowing 31 points per game. They've stopped literally no one. And FanDuel agrees with me. Cincinnati's defense is $3,400 on FanDuel, which is basically a giveaway. They scored 6 points versus the Seahawks. If you would have used them last week against the 49ers, you would have been better off using no one. They scored -2 last week against the 49ers. And here's the thing about John Brown. I wrote this in one of the articles I did last week. I don't know that there's much better receiver when it comes to starting a season than John Brown. He's already done pretty well to start this season. If you look back to how he started last season, in like 3 of his first 4 games, he either had 85 plus receiving yards or a touchdown. He cooled off some after that. But man, he started the season hot. I think he can keep that. Streak going against a really weak defense. Here, the thing too about Josh Allen, the first 2 weeks, he's given you 18 points and 22 points. Given he's scored that many points, he hasn't thrown 300 yards yet in a game, and he's never thrown for more than a touchdown, and he's still scoring that many fantasy points. But the thing is, it's his rushing. He scored a rushing touchdown both of the first weeks, and I don't think the carries are going away anytime soon. He had 7 carries week 1, 10 carries week 2. He's in line for at least 5 carries, and it's tough to stop a quarterback like that when his main game is throwing the ball, but when the defense has to respect his arm and his arm strength, it just opens up wide lanes. So against a terrible defense like that, I like a bargain stack this week. I'm going Josh Allen, John Brown.
John Brown might be a good pick this week. I just don't like John Brown going forward either.
That'd be a classic like sell high kind of guy. Like if he can go off this week, I would not be opposed to dealing him, not for pennies, but you can maybe get something to a team that's starving for a wide receiver.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or just flex positions in general in a deep league.
Right. Let's move on to your running back. Who's your bargain running back of the week?
I'm going Carlos Hyde. He's only $6,900 at the LA Chargers. I've drafted Carlos Hyde. My little naked son is sitting right outside the window here.
Oh.
There's this little dinghy in the window.
Gonna have to turn up the old parental controls on this episode.
Yeah. So Carlos Hyde, 69 at the Chargers. I've been paying attention. Even in week 1, he's getting more care. I didn't think he would be just ingratiated in his office immediately, and he has. They've been giving him the ball. Last week he went for 90 yards, I believe it was. Also, they need to stop Watson from getting hit, and the easiest way to do that is by handing the ball off so that he can get more time when they run play action. And the Chargers, they legit have been weak against the run. It's another year where they're really good against the pass and weak against the run. Marlon Mack went off on the Chargers in week 1. He had 125 yards or something like that, a touchdown. He just dominated them. I expect them to feed Hyde so that they can keep pressure off of Watson so he doesn't get sacked 4 times for a 9th game in a row,
which
I expect him to do either way. But I like Hyde. He finally gets in the end zone. They're going to give him the ball over and over and over and over again. And I knew I liked Carlos Hyde. I'm going to be playing him this week.
Ingratiated. Let's spin that around. You had a bargain running back. Let's say that you use one of my bargain stacks and you have a lot of money to spend at the running back position. So let's say you're going expensive. Yes or no to these following guys on FanDuel who are the ones that are going for $8,000 or more. Are you going to be okay today? Is that bug spray got into your throat, didn't it?
Did you hear me cough?
A couple times.
I tried to hit the silence button at the same time. I must have just tightened it a little off, but I hit the mute button too.
You ingratiated it.
I don't even know if that's a word, honestly.
Definitely the first time either of us have said it.
I'm going to look it up right now, but it might not even, if it does, it might not be anything, it just felt right.
That's a word that sounded right because you said it with confidence. You didn't mess up your flow.
Yeah.
So before you look it up, because you need to pay attention here. So yes or no to these following guys over $8,000. Are you ready?
Yep.
That was not as confident as ingratiated. The first option. Saquon Barkley, the most expensive, $9,200 at Tampa. Yes or no?
Always.
See, I'm going to go no on this. I'll get to that here when I say yes to some other guys. Christian McCaffrey, $8,900 at the Cardinals.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow. See, I'm going to go no on that one again.
They don't have their quarterback.
Exactly. I'm a little nervous of a team that doesn't have their starting quarterback potentially, and just how sick that offense is. I get it. He's the constant. He's going to get volume. But, man, when you take away that element and people can load the box, it doesn't always spell out well for this team. That's kind of what I was going to say for Barkley as well. You have a brand new quarterback in there. Bucs defense isn't great by any means. You're going to have to stop Saquon Barkley. For that price, I'm so much more confident in 2 other guys on this list that we're going to get to that I would pass on both CMC and Barkley, which is usually hell in FanDuel. You can make money off those dudes always.
There's a common misconception that loading the box is going to stop everybody. But again, I'll say this. Last year I said this again before this year. It doesn't matter how many guys you put on Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's going to dominate. You can move him everywhere. He's going to find holes. If you put everybody up in the box, if he breaks one level, which he can at any opportunity, he's going to just blow it for a 75-yard touchdown. Same with Christian McCaffrey. We're not talking let's think of an average Damian Williams here, right? We're not talking Damian Williams. We're talking two of the best running backs, like Kevin Kamara, McCaffrey, Kamara, and Barkley. They can do it on their own. They really can. I don't care how many guys you put up against them.
So Saquon plays Tampa this week. Christian McCaffrey played Tampa last week. Scored you 6.3 points. I'm nervous that going up against a defense like that, Tampa's 8th on defense against the run. I think you can do better on a week like this. I just think you can.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to the next one because I have a yes on this one finally. Zeke Elliott, 8,800 at Miami.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, no. See, that's one of those guys that I would just use over them. You're getting them for cheaper, and it's just a beautiful matchup. That's why I like that.
I don't hate any of them.
How about Dalvin Cook, 8,300 versus the Raiders?
Ooh, I haven't looked at the Raiders' defense yet. I don't know how they are against the run. I haven't paid that close of attention of how good they've been against the run. So that one's a little tougher for me because I'm not.
The Raiders are, according to FanDuel, they give up the fifth least, so they're fifth best against the run, and which is funny because they're 32nd against the pass, 26th overall.
I'm going to say no for Dalvin Cook. Like I said, I still think the line's weak. They were doing everything right against Green Bay. They looked like they couldn't stop the run. They made a dumb decision to throw the ball at the inside the 10-yard line, which I loved.
Right.
And I think it's different when they're going to go up against a good run defense because I don't think their offensive line can actually block anybody.
And the last one here, Alvin Kamara playing with either, it sounded like today they didn't make a decision on Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater, last I heard. But you got Alvin Kamara, 8,000 at the Seahawks, yes or no?
The Seahawks? Well, I mean, it has to be, number one, it has to be Teddy Bridgewater. Like, they're not going to play fucking that dildo Taysom.
Don't talk about my guy like that.
God, I love Kamara, so I'm going to say yes.
See, I'm going to go no on that just once again because if I'm going expensive, I love Zeke this week. And I really like Dalvin. Like, he had that huge run against the Packers, which really, I mean, that run alone got him, like 14 fantasy points? That makes him fantasy relevant. Everything after that's just gravy. The dude put up a huge stat line. Kirk Cousins, you've been saying this for his entire career. He is on the struggle bus, and he cannot find an exit. That dude is struggling hard right now. They're going to have to ride Cook. They have to.
If you get that guy in the red zone, he's trash. Like, I was, like, upset. I was happy that they decided to throw it, but, upset with the... Holy shit.
Sounds like you fell off your chair.
Something happened. I was upset with the choice to throw the ball, like, as just a football fan. You're throwing the ball after running it like 8 times in a row where we couldn't like tackle him, and then throwing it was the dumbest thing you could ever do. Why are you overthinking it?
No kidding. Before we get to some bargain wide receivers, let's talk about Pristine Auction because they are sponsoring our latest giveaway. It's a signed Amari Cooper Dallas Cowboys mini helmet. So check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Make sure you get signed up for that. You have a little bit of time left to get your entries in. But in the meantime, also head over to pristineauction.com. When you register, enter registration code LOADED and we will get you $5 added to your account. So head over to Pristine Auction, get signed up for the Amari Cooper mini helmet giveaway, and then listen to what DJ has for his bargain wide receiver this week.
Ingratiate. Who did I talk about when I said ingratiate?
I don't remember anymore because all I was focused on is repeating the word in my head so that I could say it back to you.
I said it is. I think I used it right. Bring oneself into favor with someone by flattering or trying to please them.
Dude, we should start another podcast like about this grammar.
Yeah, I fucking nailed it.
Country grammar.
All right, my wide receiver is going to be $6,200. That's a hell of a bargain. DK Metcalf versus the Saints.
Whew.
The Saints right now, worst pass defense in the league. Just trash. Not good right now. And Seattle may now, without Drew Brees, Seattle is going to have the ball more than they usually would in a matchup against the Saints, going against either Bridgewater or, let's just say Bridgewater, because I don't think, they don't actually like Taysom. They just, like, as a quarterback, they just kind of flirt with him. It's like, oh, we'll put you there, but then, like, Brees gets hurt, and then they put Bridgewater in. Like,
I think they like the idea.
Yeah, they're just kind of flirting. And they're, like, teasing him. But, like, he's just going to play running back, wide receiver. I'm kind of ruin the offense every now and then.
I have to admit, I missed out on part of that game. I came back, and the first play that I saw was Teddy Bridgewater completing a pass to Taysom Hill. And I was like, did we just like fast forward into the future where Drew Brees isn't around anymore? I totally missed the injury and I had to like go back and check it out for myself because I'm like, dude, what are the Saints doing right now? Is Drew Brees playing receiver?
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is the kind of week that I see Russell Wilson flying around and DK Metcalf, who scored his first touchdown last week, I believe.
Yep.
Just busting away with his 240 and scoring a long touchdown. Like, if he breaks away against that bad secondary, it can be deadly.
No one's catching him, and even if someone catches him, no one's tackling him.
No one's catching him.
That's just a stiff arm style right there. So speaking of bargain wide receivers, let's play a little game here. It's called Bargain or Not Worth the Risk. So you said DK was how much?
6,200.
6,200. I've got 3 guys here that are even cheaper than that, so that's why I'm calling it way bargain. Or no, that's too risky. We're not doing it. All right, number 1. Deebo Samuel is 5,500 versus the Steelers with new free safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. 5,500 Deebo. Bargain or not worth the risk?
Not worth it. I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo and that offense in the least.
He looked good against Cincinnati. We got to give him that.
I look good against Cincinnati.
I'm telling you, man. The Dolphins play the Bengals like week 15 or 16. That's the tank for to a Super Bowl. It's fucking on. Number 2, you should like this one. Your boy Geronimo Allison is 5,200 versus Denver, and Vic Fangio 2.
Nice. I think that's worth the risk. I think Rodgers is starting to get on the page with them, and he's going to get more comfortable running out of that slot position.
More comfortable with him or MVS? They're very similar in price.
Right now, I'm more comfortable with MVS until I see a little more out of Geronimo.
Really? Because Geronimo got the touchdown.
He did, but that was like his only target.
That's true. I'll give you that.
He went up and he made the play, and he has got trustworthy hands, and he can make plays, but he's definitely... Even when he gets interviewed after the game, he talks about MVS and almost never about Geronimo. I actually don't know if I've heard him talk about Geronimo at all yet, which is weird.
So worth the risk, but MVS might be a better use of your money.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one here. A sleeper for me this week. I really like this guy. I might be a week early, but I'm going to go all in on it. James Washington, 5,200 at the 49ers.
Not worth it.
So here's my theory. Mason Rudolph was his college quarterback. I don't think that's enough to just say, oh, yeah, he's fantasy relevant. That's going to be a thing. What I think, though, is with Mason Rudolph making his first career NFL start, he's going to look for safety. He's going to look for a familiar face. I think Washington's going to get targets. I could see him and Juju maybe not having spectacular days, but for $5,200, if he gets 70 yards and a touchdown, dude's going to be worth it. Next week they play the Bengals. I think that's his real come out. I think it could happen a week early. I kind of like 5,200. And imagine if you spent 5,200 on James Washington, you might be able to get Barkley and Zeke this week.
I mean, well, the joke's on you here because he can't see his face in a helmet.
What does that mean?
Like you said, he wants to see a familiar face. You can't tell. You can't see James Washington running down the field. And I just haven't seen what I've actually paid a couple of attention a few times here, specifically on James Washington. They threw the ball to him a couple times. I don't like what I see out of him right now. I don't have any confidence from James Washington from watching him play.
Well, we'll let it play out this week. I think Rudolph's going to try to ingratiate him into the offense, and then we'll see how it plays against the Bengals next week.
I'm going to ingratiate this dick.
All right, one more wide receiver question I have for you. All right, so the Patriots, once again, favored by 1,000,000 points. They play the Jets. At least one of their wide receivers is going to be fantasy relevant this week. Probably all 3, maybe even additional 4th. But if you're using one, who are you using between AB, who's $7,700, Edelman, who's $6,900, or Josh Gordon, who is $6,000?
I think I'm going to go Julian Edelman because it feels like Julian Edelman week, right? They've used Antonio Brown, they've used Josh Gordon, and now it's like, hey, let's have fun and let's get Julian Edelman involved because they've had Sonny Michel, so it's Julian Edelman's turn, and that's just kind of what the Patriots are doing right now. I feel like.
Yeah, you definitely you stole my answer there. Spoiler alert for my side piece, my Sunday side piece article. I am using Edelman this week because he is actually tied for the team lead in receiving yards, but he's the only traditional pass catcher who doesn't have a touchdown yet. Tom Brady's not going to let that slide forever. Dude's going to go off. The Patriots are going to go off. Edelman is going to get a piece. Not to say AB and Josh Gordon aren't or that they're bad plays, but if I'm using one, I'm with you, man. I like that value. I like Edelman this week. So with that, let's move on to tight ends. Who is your bargain tight end of the week?
So I'm going to go O.J. Howard this week, $5,800 versus the Giants. And the reason is because he had no targets this last week. Not a single target, 0 for 0. He's too good, too talented. They've mentioned this last week that he's gonna get his eventually. I think they'll make that a focus against the Giants. It's perfect. Again, it's like the Giants are the perfect team to kind of like, or one of those teams like the Bengals, the Giants, the Dolphins are like one of those teams that you could just kind of practice against. Like
It's
really
a great way
like
to put it.
focus on somebody and work on getting them targets because most likely you're going to beat them anyways. I think they'll work on getting OJ Howard reinserted back into this offense.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you was, is OJ Howard unusable in both DFS and standard fantasy? Because like you said last week, not a single target. The week before, 4 catches, 32 yards. Nothing you want, but you answered my question, so you're going to ride with him. You're going to take him while he's cheap. I can get down with that.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you about this guy because going into the season, it was basically what at tight end? Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle were like the expensive guys. Everyone else is just whatever it is. Well, another guy has emerged as like kind of creeping into that top 3. It's basically Mark Andrews, who as in the first 2 weeks literally put together like the same game back to back, around 8 catches, around 110 yards, and a touchdown. Does Mark Andrews make it 3 weeks in a row with over 100 yards and a touchdown against the Chiefs?
He's a tight end, so I'm going to say no. They'll probably take him away because as bad as their defense is, I think just overall the team as a whole is bright enough and smart enough to know who's going to be who's going to be Lamar Jackson's main guy, and that's Mark Andrews. And I don't know. I just
would you try?
I can see Lamar Jackson having a bad week this week, but I'm not going to go ahead and say he will.
Right. Would you be inclined to, another big word, would you be inclined to try to sell Mark Andrews in like a standard fantasy league right now, just thinking that his value can't really get much higher?
I don't know. It's hard to come across a good tight end because they all suck so bad.
Yeah.
So if you have a guy like that, I probably keep him because then you don't have to be like me and then
Try to
like I'm better at it. Like not everybody can live on the waiver wire with tight ends. We're not all DJ Primo. So if I'm one of those average Joes out there trying to make a buck, I keep Mark Andrews on the team.
One of DJ's fantasy names is literally, which it emphasizes what he does with defenses and tight ends. What is it? Streaming
D's in your tight ends.
Well, that speaks for itself. Let's wrap this up with a couple of fantasy football listener questions that were submitted via Twitter. Are you starting Joe Mixon at the Bills,
Ugh.
Chris Thompson versus the Bears, or Tariq Cohen at the Redskins? This is a half PPR league.
I hate every option here. But obviously, I don't think this is really that great of a question. Obviously, I hate Chris Thompson. Haven't seen much out of Washington. Or I hate Chris Thompson against Chicago because of Chicago.
Matchup.
I haven't seen much out of Cohen yet. You got to go with the guy you drafted in probably the first round. Like if you just give up on that guy, that's stupid. He's a good running back. He's going to have some games, so Mixon easily. I
kind of thought Mixon easy right away as well, but what scares me is it's not a great matchup, and he's already a bit injured. He's nicked up, so it's if he gets hit again, man, they shelf him. They don't play him. So for that, I'm actually going to go out on it's not even a limb. I'm going to take a risk here. I would actually use Cohen. He's not guaranteed any carries. Literally, he might get 2-3 carries in a game, but he's going to make up for it with his targets. Hopefully, he breaks one. Hopefully, he gets you that touchdown. It's against the Redskins. They're not excellent on defense. I like the Bears this week. I think I would actually go with Cohen this week. Let's go on to another listener question. You got Jamison Crowder at the Patriots. MVS versus Denver or Geronimo versus Denver? So I'm guessing for you it's either Crowder versus the Patriots or MVS.
I'm 100% not playing Crowder with no quarterback.
Yep.
So I'm going MVS versus Denver here.
Yep.
I'm trying to get him more deep shots as well. Yep. Honestly, like I said, Geronimo could go off at any moment and be that main guy, and I expect him to at some point this year, or like sooner rather than later. But just based off of who Rodgers has been targeting so far, it's been obviously Devontae and then MVS, and then Geronimo has had like one catch for a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll defer to you on the Packers wide receivers there, and I'll agree. It's funny. I feel like Adam Gase has turned Jamison Crowder into the Jets version of what he had with Jarvis Landry, where you target him 18 times and he still doesn't surpass 100 receiving yards. It's amazing. And like you said, remember when we were little and we played one-on-one football? You'd have to drop back and try to throw it to yourself.
I do that still.
Jamison Crowder may have to do that this week with that line and the way that the Jets are playing quarterback position. So, with you on that one.
When they went Wildcat with Le'Veon Bell, I was like, "Fuck it, just run that every play."
He's next quarterback in line, they said.
Yeah, let him throw it.
Might as well, fuck it.
Much better chances of scoring.
No shit. One more here. Should I drop Marvin Jones for Scary Terry McLaurin?
There's got to be somebody else you can drop, right? I mean, we haven't seen much of it. That's tough.
That is tough.
I'm not high on this McLaurin guy. Like I said, I think that you're going to see a drastic fall real quick with the Case Keenum Washington Redskins offense and team in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's Marvin Jones getting up there, though. Maybe that's a tough one.
Yeah, I think, honestly, if I had to make an exact call on this, right now, I would say no. I know McLaurin has outproduced him just easily. McLovin, I'm sorry. He's totally outproduced him. But at the same time, Stafford has been one, like, yeah, he targets like his main guy. It's always been like the Calvin Johnson, now Kenny Galladay. But man, Marvin Jones has had his games, and I think at some point he's going to become a little bit more consistent. And like you said with the Redskins offense, Case Keenum's had a game here and there, but man, if they start struggling, how long is it before you get Dwayne Haskins put in there? Who knows how the offense is going to go at that point? You just have a little bit more consistency right now with the Lions offense than the Racial Slurs offense. I can't drop Marvin Jones quite yet. I get it. You don't always want to get too attached to a player, but I can't do it quite yet.
For my Survivor League, I'm taking the Vikings against the Raiders this week. How's that sound?
So bet on the Raiders this week. That's all it comes down to.
I won 2 in a row at least in that. It's not against the spread.
Yeah, it comes back to like if you're taking a team, you bet the other way against the spread. You just have to do it.
There you go.
Anything else you would like to add, or should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap her up.
All right. Check us out on Twitter, as mentioned before, at Loaded Box. Check out our website, loadedboxpodcast.com. Our next episode will be released shortly after this one, actually. It's going to be our Week 3 game-by-game and against the spread picks. Available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube. You know that because you're listening to it on one of those likely right now. Subscribe, rate, review. DJ, send us out.
Bye.